short-lived happiness, equating happiness with success and fun. Most humans, even other living things, animals and plants, they have the urge and the desire to be happy and search for ways and means to be happy, sometimes even happier than they think they're in. But they lack some basic requirements and understandings about happiness. Matters such as, what is happiness? How do we define it? What is it that will make human beings truly happy? Is happiness measured with the right tool? Can people differentiate between happiness and illusions? Are the images we see on Hollywood and Bollywood living life in an irrational dream, in a rational dream world supported by self-defeat facts? Are these happiness or just fantasies? Is happiness the releasing of neurochemicals that people feel when they indulge in everyday basic practices such as eating and copulating? I would assume if that is happiness, then many of those who are fasting the month of Ramadan would be very sad. But on the contrary, we find it is not so. Is happiness something subjective? That based on our faulty memories, what makes us sad in one moment can be remembered as a happy moment, and vice versa. The way we answer these questions will determine our level of happiness that we experience if any at all. Then there are some more intriguing questions. Are we equating happiness with money? Do we think that the more money we have, the happier we become? Well, one thing for sure is that unhappy poor people at least have the fantasy that money will make them happy one day, whereas unhappy rich people don't even have that at all. Many studies show that many people work for money or prestige rather than meaning. Work becomes not a source of happiness at all. How many of these people who are millionaires and billionaires, the rich and famous, but they are suffering from an almost permanent lack of peace of mind as a result of the fear they have over their wealth? How can they protect it? How can they safeguard it? And many other issues that pertain to their wealth. Every day we hear stories of suicide and attempted suicide, drugs, depression of the filthy rich. And by the way, filthy rich people are more filthy than rich. You live in a mansion today, and we have seen what happens to that building that we so delight of today. Stories of Qarun, and even as recent as the tsunami, the cyclone in Burma, the earthquake in China, the hurricane in Katrina, perhaps the 800 fires in California, the flooding in Iowa, are some examples of what material things really mean. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Al-Quran, إِنَّمَا مَثَلُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا كَمَاءٍ أَنزَلْنَاهُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ فَاخْتَلَطَ بِهِ نَبَاتُ الْأَرْضِ مِمَّا يَأْكُلُ النَّاسُ وَالْأَنْعَامُ حتى إذا أخذت الأرض زخرفها وزينت وظن أهلها أنهم قادرون عليها أتاها أمرنا ليلا أو نهارا فجعلناها حصيدا كأن لم تغن بالأمس كذلك نفصل الآيات لقوم يتفكرون. Verily, the likeness of this worldly life is as the water or the rain which we send down from the sky. So by it arises the intermingled produce of the earth, of which men and cattle eat, until the earth is clad with its adornment and is beautified. And its people think that they have all the powers of disposal over it. Our command reaches it by night or by day, and we make it like a clean mown harvest, as if it has not flourished yesterday, as if there was no civilization there the day before. Thus do we make and explain the ayat in details for people who reflect. This is what happens with material things. Is fame happiness? Everyday celebrities are involved in so much of immoralities. Volumes can be written about famous people revealing their depression and sadness. Presidents, CEOs, how many people smile but they really don't mean a smile, as we know in the Arabic proverb, إِذَا رَأَيْتَ النُّيُوبَ اللَّيْثِ بَارِزَةً فَلَا تَظُنَّنَّ أَنَّ اللَّيْثَ يَبْتَسِمُ. If you see the canine teeth of a lion showing, that does not mean that he's smiling or he's happy. Is marriage happiness? Well, this is something we can debate. It ought to bring happiness, but then why over 50% of married people are divorced? Is success in life happiness? If we equate happiness with our concept of success, we will never achieve the amount of success necessary to make us happy. No wonder why in America, the greatest country, over 47 million Americans are using antidepressant drugs, and perhaps another 47 million on narcotics. Is fun happiness? If we equate happiness with fun, fun is momentary. Happiness ought to be something ongoing. And we know how much fun can bring sadness, while pain can bring joy. Promiscuous people have a lot of fun, because seducing and being seduced are terrific fun. But wait till they visit the doctor and are told that they have, or they are HIV positive. Smokers have fun while smoking until diagnosed with lung cancer. Drinking alcohol may be fun at the spur of the moment, but what happens when the person is intoxicated? How about the headache and pain and illness and addiction that result from alcoholism? People claim to have pleasure while doing drugs, only to realize that they have become addicted, endangering not only themselves but the entire society. Even the food we eat, what pleasure does it bring but a few moments on the tongue? And if we were to throw it out or pass it out after digestion, we our own selves cannot look at it. Not to mention the problems associated with food, the illnesses, cholesterol, carb, sugar, no sugar, milk, no milk, lactose tolerant, intolerant, the water that we use, how many times is it recycled, vegetables that are genetically engineered, meat that we hear of bovine, mad cow disease, fish that contain mercury, chicken that is bird flu, and the list goes on and on and on, that sometimes that you're really scared to know what is it you're eating, if this is going to bring, this food is actually bringing any happiness to you, or you eat out of your necessity for the moment just to survive. These and many questions can be asked about happiness. But as one psychologist puts it, the things we expect that will bring us lasting joy rarely do. And this is so because we tend to equate happiness with worldly success, joy, which are only momentarily. Yes, these means are so short-lived, because what brings a temporary happiness can bring long moments of sadness. In Ratha of Andalus, or the fall of Spain, one of the great poet, Abul Baqa Randi al-Andalusi, he says, لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ إِذَا مَا تَمَّ نُقْصَانُ فَلَا يَغَرُّ بِطِيبِ الْعَيْشِ الْإِنسَانُ هِيَ الْأُمُورُ كَمَا شَاهَدْتُهَا دُوَلٌ مَنْ سَرَّهُ زَمَنٌ سَاءَتْهُ أَزْمَانُ. Everything declines after reaching some stage of its perfection. Therefore, let no man be fooled by the sweetness of a pleasant life. As you may have observed, there are decrees that are inconsistent. He who a single moment has made happy has become sad for many moments other than that. My dear brothers and sisters, for true happiness, for us to experience true happiness, we have to look at something beyond this temporary state. Otherwise, we would lack motivation to accomplish anything personally or professionally. And this perhaps what answers the question of depression. For a believer, it is the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the belief that Allah is supervising us, the belief that we are on a journey back to Allah, and that there is an everlasting life beyond this life called the hereafter, to believe that paradise is the ultimate state of happiness. This is what will bring us happiness. Human beings can only experience this sense of happiness when he or she is in the preparation to returning to this true happiness. What truly matters with respect to our happiness is how strongly we cling to these beliefs, because a lack of clarity suggests our life is in chaos. And chaos suggests meaninglessness. And meaninglessness guarantees unhappiness. Without inner understanding, happiness is only a joke. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, فَذَرْهُمْ يَخُوذُوا وَيَلْعَبُوا حَتَّى يُلَاقُوا يَوْمَهُمُ الَّذِي يُوعَدُونَ. So leave them to plunge in vain talk and play about until they reach their day which they are promised. So the short-lived happiness by fulfilling the desires of the body is only an illusion. True happiness is preparing well for that day when we all will be returned to the Creator, where the true happiness will be experienced. Allah inna awliya Allah la khawfun alayhim wa lahum yahzanun alladhina amanu wa kanu yattaqun lahumul bushra fil hayatid dunya wa fil akhirah la tabdila li kalimatillah dhalikal huwal fawzul azim. Now surely the friends of Allah shall have no fear nor shall they grieve. Those who believe and guard it against evil, they shall have good news in this world's life and in the hereafter. There is no changing in the words of Allah. That is the mighty achievement. True happiness in paradise. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَلَا تَمُدَّنَّ عَيْنَيْكَ إِلَى مَا مَتَّعْنَا بِهِ أَزْوَاجًا مِّنْهُمْ زَهْرَةَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا لِنَفْتِنَهُمْ فِيهِ وَرِزْقُ رَبِّكَ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. And stray not your eyes in longing for the things we have given for enjoyment to various groups among them. That is those who disbelieve. The splendor of the life of this world, that we may test them thereby. But the provision or the reward of the hereafter of your Lord is better and more lasting. Both, that means both in quantity and quality. قُلْ مَتَاعُ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا قُلْ مَتَاعُ الدُّنْيَا قَلِيلٌ وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لِمَنِ اتَّقَى وَلَا تُظْلَمُونَ فَتِيلًا. Say, short is the enjoyment of this world. The hereafter is far better for him who fears Allah, and you shall not be dealt with unjustly, even the equal of a fatila, which is the thread on a date seed. Because indeed the clothes of paradise, the food of paradise, the drink of paradise, the milk, the honey, the wine, the environment of paradise are all the true meaning of happiness. مَثَلُ الْجَنَّةِ الَّتِي وُعِدَ الْمُتَّقُونَ فِيهَا أَنْهَارٌ مِّن مَاءٍ غَيْرِ آسٍ وَأَنْهَارٌ مِّن لَبَنٍ لَمْ يَتَغَيَّرْ طَعَامُهُ وأنهار من خمر لذة للشاربين وأنهار من عسل مصفى ولهم فيها من كل الثمرات ومغفرة من ربهم. The description of paradise which the muttaqun has been promised is that in it rivers of water, the taste and smell of which will not change, rivers of milk which the taste will never change, rivers of wine delicious to those who drink, and rivers of clarified honey made clean and pure. Therein for them is every kind of fruit and forgiveness from their Lord. This kind of intoxication or this kind of drinking of wine in the Jannah, la yusaddauna anha wa la yunzifun, that it will not bring any aching or any intoxication. This is the true happiness, not the intoxication of this world, that once the person drinks it, he has to go on medication perhaps for the rest of his life. On the other hand, ibadallah, those who reject this form of happiness, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warns, وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكًا وَنَحْشُرُهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ أَعْمَى. But whoever turns away from my reminder, for him is a life of hardship and depression, and we shall raise him up blind on the day of judgment. Depression, Prozac, Ephizor, Remeron, Cymbalta, and a long list of antidepressant drugs that only result in dizziness and more headache and more sickness and more blurred vision and more jittery and more medication to counteract this antidepressant. This is the ma'ishatan danka that they will live in. Ibadallah, we should be like the Sahaba, who are indeed happy when even poverty was their lot. Why? Because they give up the temporary happiness for the permanent one. وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ وَمَن يُوقَ شُحَّ نَفْسِهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. That they give preference over themselves, even though poverty was their lot. And whoever is saved from his own covetousness, such indeed are the successful ones. مَنْ عَمِلَ صَالِحًا مِنْ ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنْثَى وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ فَلَنُحْيِيَنَّهُ حَيَاةً طَيِّبَةً وَلَنَجْزِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْرَهُمْ بِأَحْسَنِ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. Whoever works righteousness, whether male or female, whether he or she is a true believer, while he or she is a true believer, verily to him we will give a good life, and we shall pay them certainly a reward in proportion to the best of what they used to do. So running after desires and fun will never bring happiness. They are actually misery and enslavement to one's soul. True happiness can only be achieved when the soul can be liberated and the body finds happiness to carry out its orders. It is when the soul does not enjoy freedom from Allah, but freedom for Allah. This is an important statement. You know, we hear this word freedom. Today is Independence Day, the day of freedom. But freedom, is it freedom from Allah, or is it freedom of our soul for Allah, so that we can recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And in conclusion, I will close with the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Al-kayyisu man dana nafsahu wa amila lima ba'da al-maut, wal-ajizu man adba'a nafsahu hawaha wa tamanna ala Allah. A wise person is one who keeps watch over his bodily desires and passions, and he submits, or he becomes master of his nafs, while a foolish person is one who enslaves himself. He thinks he has freedom, but in fact he has enslaved himself to his soul, and he wishes that all his desires can be fulfilled. About Allah, if we really want to enjoy true happiness, we have to liberate both our body and our soul in order to be free to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us this true form of happiness, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala show us truth as truth and help us to follow it, show us falsehood as falsehood, and help us to stay away from it. أقول قولي هذا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.